Hello and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. Today I am featuring Tori Boggs, and let me tell you, I'm not going to make her jump rope today, but we're going to include some links to her YouTube videos that will highlight this. But she is the jump rope world champion. I mean, she's been featured on Ellen, NBA halftime shows, the Macy's Day Parade, CNN. So she is great at her craft, and I'm excited to highlight how she's gotten that good. So Tori, thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. Always can talk about jump rope. So
Yes. So let's rewind to many moons ago. So we're 5 years old and we see this thing called jump roping, which is not an uncommon age to be, I guess, getting the experience of seeing and trying jump roping.
yeah, for sure. No, I literally saw it and fell in love, and that was it. Jump rope had my heart from day one. And I was really terrible when I first started. I was a very uncoordinated kid, but I loved it. Something I can't explain what it was about jump rope, but I couldn't stop. And my mom saw how much I loved it, and being an amazing mother, she starts taking me to practices. Luckily, we had a team where I grew up, and
Yeah.
she starts helping me, after school. I wanted to keep jumping, and she learned how to coach and ultimately become a judge, and she's very involved now in the sport, but it actually became the thing that we did together. So I've been able to share this amazing journey with my mom as well, which has been really cool.
Absolutely. Now, it was interesting to me. So at 7, you decide to enroll in your first competition. And
Yeah.
if you knew how it played out now, you would guess that the outcome would have been a little bit different right off the bat.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess looking back now, it's like, man, I was really bad. But I think this was a pretty pivotal moment for me as a kid. Like
Yeah.
I got dead last in my first jump rope competition. And I told my mom, I never want to be last place again. And so, really going on to the sacrifices that my mom made,
Yeah.
she understood that, and she did everything that she could to help me also, be what I wanted to be. And my parents in general have been very good about, like, if you want something, you need to wake up early. We will support you. Like, if you need to be driven somewhere or help with something, we'll make that happen. But like, you need to be the one putting in the effort in the gym, like making it happen, telling us what you need.
Yeah.
And so I'm very thankful for that, for sure. And so this was that moment, right? I didn't want to get last again. And so my mom's like, okay, what do we need to do to make that change? And yeah, that was definitely a pivotal moment.
Yeah. Now, I thought it was interesting. I don't know if it's at this age, but you mentioned how you and your mom would get up and would start doing jump rope workouts at like 5 a.m. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that, and, even days that maybe you didn't want to get up and do it. I mean, even when we love something, there's still those days where you're like, I don't know, getting up, doing it, and
Yeah.
getting better at your craft.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, when it came to jump rope, or anytime it's come to jump rope, even if I'm tired, it's never been so difficult that I couldn't do it, because I always really wanted to jump. It's
Yeah.
mainly the other supplemental things, like I ran cross country and did these kind of things. So I would run before school. And it's 5 a.m., it's dark out. So my mom doesn't want me running outside by myself. So she is either running or biking with me, or on the really cold days, she's in her car, like behind me, like while I'm on my run. Super amazing woman. And then if I ever need anything, she's right there. But those were the harder days, or like getting in the pool for conditioning, because I knew that specifically wasn't my passion. But it
Yeah.
was there to supplement. But yeah, anytime it's been jump rope, I ended up, making friends with the cooks in junior high, and they would let me in the school super early so I could go in the gym. Like, this was always super cool. And just, yeah, finding ways to basically make it work and be able to practice as much as possible.
Wow. I love it. Now, from 7 finishing last in the competition to 8, we have a radical change of a year. So talk about what changed for you. I mean, how you got better, and then kind of what happened when you were 8.
Oh, deep analysis. Yeah, I mean, so like I said, like, we really broke down what I needed to do, and how the sport of jump rope really needs to be looked at. And this is something that I think people tend to miss, is that, yes, jump rope is a sport. You train it like anything else. You drill skills, you practice, you're in the gym, you find different technique points that make you go faster or do better. And that's exactly what I started doing. Was looking at what shoes I'm wearing even, and how to jump, how to land on my foot better, and just repetition over and over and over again. So I was practicing all the time doing the same thing. So this really was a huge, I dove into jump rope as much as possible and tried every rope that existed, always changing the sizes, how my form is working, and all of these types of things. That's what I was doing at this time.
Yeah. So just to educate people, as I've learned your story, I've learned about the sport of jump roping, but there are certain competitions that are time-based. There are certain competitions that are based on sheer just number or volume. And then there are certain competitions that are regardless of age. Are you the fastest or the best at it? So maybe give a little briefing of the world of jump roping.
Yes, it's so cool. Okay, so there's really something for everyone in jump ropes. We have that subjective, we have that objective. So I tend to say, okay, we have the events like track or swimming. So you can jump for 30 seconds as fast as you can, 1 minute, 3 minute, that type of thing. We do speed, where you're alternating feet. And the judges actually only count the right foot because jumpers are going so quickly, you can't possibly get both. So that's definitely an element. We do double unders. They're not as prominent as people might think in our sport, actually. And then we also do triple unders. So jumping the rope makes 3 revolutions. Yeah. This is a cool event because it's actually not timed. It's just as many as you can do until fatigue or exhaustion. So we have these really a huge variety of elements. And then you can jump by yourself. You can jump 2 people, 4 people. And then we get into kind of the more subjective events like freestyle, kind of like gymnastics routine or figure skating, probably better related to figure skating. And this is also really cool because you have such a freedom of expression, and everyone has their own style of how they jump and also how they combine skills together. So it's like we're kind of taking words and making different stories, like sentences that form different stories. And we each kind of have our own way to do that in jump rope. And this is really cool. So we do that for 1:15 we have on the floor. Yeah. And usually it's choreographed to music, and it's doing the hardest tricks that you can do with the least mistakes possible with the best presentation that you can make happen. So those are kind of the element. And then there's loads of rules as far as what tricks count more and why, and the speed changes and all of that really complicated jump rope dorky geek stuff that I love. And then this is another thing. You can jump alone. You can do pairs. So you do the same thing in sync. You do that with 2 people or 4. Yeah. And then there's double Dutch, which is usually 3 to 5 people, depending on the competition or the event. And there's the same type of interesting rules that go into that. And that's also super fun. So there's something literally for everyone in the sport. It's really cool.
Well, and I wanted to preface that because at 13, you do something that you become the youngest person to ever do. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And this was wild. So the sport has kind of evolved a lot since I've been in it as far as how competitions work. Yeah. And kind of in the old style, we would have US national trials to make Team USA. And then that would usually be in February or the spring. And then by the summer, you're getting ready and going to the world tournament representing your country. So that was kind of how it used to happen. And at this time, they had it divided into kind of roughly 15 and under, and then 16 and up. So you had the junior and then the senior, but there wasn't a specific, you had to be this. It was just kind of a recommendation, and people put juniors in, and then they put their top people in the seniors. So I was at the US trials, and I was going for junior. That was the category I was in, was for junior. But how it worked for this competition was they had one judging panel, and everyone was kind of against everyone. Yeah. And so I came out first, in the first seed for Team USA. And it was really no one had ever heard of me really abroad, because it was kind of a new thing to do this internationally. And so they were like, well, we want you to represent us in the senior category. So I was like, are you guys sure? This is a really big deal, because these jumpers are, early 20s. They're the strongest women in the world doing this sport. So I went for it, and I showed up to the competition, and no one knew who I was, which I think was even better, that I was just out of nowhere, and then ended up winning. And that was a really, really cool moment. So
yeah, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Now, that ends up parlaying into you becoming the U.S. team captain
Yeah.
at a young age. And I mean, just talk about the leadership that it takes to be a team captain and what that meant to you.
Oh, geez. Yeah, definitely a huge honor. It was already a huge honor to even be at that level when I was 13. And then how it worked at that time was that there was the world competition every 2 years.
Yeah.
And so again, you would wait 2 years. And there's kind of an interesting story I can talk about later with a world record that took me forever to get. But as far as leadership goes, yeah, for sure, definitely a huge honor to be able to represent my country and all of the friends that I enjoy jumping with and being able to be there to support one another. And then of course, all of the really fun things that come with being the captain, like organizing how we're being patriotic and how we're representing our country, and just trying to get everyone as empowered as possible to not only train for the competition, but enjoy that moment once you're on the floor, because it goes by so fast. Yeah. And when you're so worried about like how much you've trained and prepared for this moment, and those nerves kind of set in, there's ultimately this moment where you're like, you know what, I've trained so hard to be here. I need to enjoy this moment and just do the best that I can, and what will be, you know? And so this is just it's been really cool to be able to have this position in leadership. Yeah.
Now, I want to highlight that because that's a very profound mindset to be able to have at that young of an age, right? Hey, I've prepped this hard for something, and you know what? At this point, I just got to put my best foot forward. So for you, was there any nervousness that came from it, or was it just, hey, I get the opportunity to perform, like, let's go?
Oh no, of course I'm nervous. The nerves are good. They're really,
good nerves,
really,
yeah.
really good. But I think what you learn in jump rope is tricks move so quickly, and really anything can happen on the floor. And just any given day, it could be a different result. And you find that out through the hours spent in the gym. And that's just how it is. Your timing is half of a half off, and it can really like destroy everything. And that's kind of the nature of the sport. So yeah, you have to balance for sure being the good amount of nervous, not too much so that you're ruining your timing, but also that comes from hours in the gym of training, muscle memory, so that whatever happens that day, whether you don't feel good or, you know, like your rope breaks coming out onto the floor, like, or even on the floor, this can happen, or just a myriad of things that would happen on competition day, trying to prepare yourself enough to be able to adjust to that moment. Yeah.
That's great. So as you were talking, you mentioned, hey, there's a lot of neat opportunities that come with, being captain of a U.S. team. And then you had mentioned that a trip to Kenya was a very important, trip for you. So talk a little bit about why you were there and why it stood out to you, why it's been important.
Yeah, I went in 2012. Yes, 2012. And the irony is that I actually have worn for like 10 years now, almost 10 years, this bracelet on my wrist, and it broke last week. Oh. Like I was literally going on the floor for a show, and I looked down and it was broken. And I couldn't believe that after like almost a decade on my wrist. Yeah. But this trip was amazing. We were there to help them host the East African Rope Skipping Championships, was a huge step for the continent, for the countries in Africa, just getting kind of the federations developed and the teams developed and this type of thing. And there's a huge process involved in that. And, you know, it comes down to like, yes, we need to have these processes in place, the organization's going, but ultimately it's about getting jump ropes in the hands of kids and just getting them going and in love with this amazing activity. Yeah. So we went there, and these kids, they just had such an incredible love for jump rope that they didn't want to stop jumping ever. So like
something you understood.
Yes, this was something we could all relate to, which was amazing. It was just this pure joy and passion. So from the moment that we were allowed to jump rope, like not like before breakfast, just the sun came up and now we were allowed to like start jumping rope. They started, and they would not stop until we were forced to go to bed. Like the lights are now like on, but like they aren't allowed to stay on anymore. Like they have to put us away. Like that's exactly what we were doing every single day. And this was really incredible. Just the hunger that these children had for this sport. It was very refreshing because you don't always encounter that amount of passion for anything, anywhere. And so
Right.
this was really, really cool time. And then we got to do shows with them and just, all kind of grow together, get to know about the culture there and share so many different things and experiences. This was really just, it's amazing to have this connection to people across the world, regardless of being able to speak the same language. And
Right.
that's why jump rope is so special, because we have our own language of skills and we can jump together without actually saying anything. We're just like, like, okay, Tone, yeah, this is okay, let's do it. And then you're able to jump with someone you've really never met before. And this is really, really cool.
Yes, I was gonna say it almost becomes an art form, right? It's not
Oh,
just
yeah.
a sport. I mean, there's a whole. I'm learning this. I'm learning as I've learned your story. But there's a lot more to it than just jumping rope.
Yep. Very
Love
true.
it.
I love to hear that. Yeah.
Yes. So for you, it's time to graduate from high school and to head on to college, and you decide, Ohio State, this is the place I want to go. And as you're there, the alumni council or somebody in it decides, hey, we kind of want to highlight your skill set here. And they record a video of you, and this leads to some cool social interaction. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes. You've super done your research. So first of all, one of the big deciding factors of going to Ohio State, I was fortunate enough to get a full ride academically, but the reason I was going for that was because they said, we will help you jump rope. And that was the biggest thing was,
Yeah.
whatever schools I was looking at, I was, going to play soccer or do this or that. But this school was like, we want to help you bring something new. I was like, okay, I can't deny that. And so that's like my freshman year. That's when someone contacted me. They're like, hey, we hear that you have this skill, and we would just want to make a video and see what happens. And then, of course, this video really randomly goes viral. And it led to the Ellen show, which was amazing. It was a very cool experience and opportunity. And then, just from there, it was about, okay, how can we establish jump rope at a university setting? And so I had this amazing professor in chemistry, Dr. Sanagata, and she loved these ideas of me wanting to look at the physics of jump rope and what these movements are from a student perspective, and then bringing those to kids and other students on campus. So she was like, you know what, we're going to make this happen. We can start a jump rope team. So we just kind of went for it. And it was pretty funny at first, because I was literally just going into lecture halls and I would do, very randomly to peers, and then I would write my email on the board and then be like, all right, see you, thank you, professor, like as everyone's walking at the beginning. So it was a little bit strange at first, but started to kind of take action, and people started emailing me like, that was really cool, we want to learn something new in college. And this was also really different because we're used to peers our age having jumped rope forever. And so we're used to being able to do it. So it's very cool. I thought it was super cool that these students who've never touched a jump rope were so willing to just try something new and kind of be vulnerable. But that's kind of what college is about, right? Is being able to dive into something new. So we ended up forming a team and slowly started doing performances on campus. And those started growing and building. So we did for, the football games, like basketball games. We were doing alumni events all over campus events. It just got bigger and bigger. And this was really, really cool. And then we developed into a sport club ultimately. So we were able to now compete as Ohio State jump rope. And then I had some friends who went to Stanford and UNC, and they're like, we also want to build a jump rope team. So we all started collaborating on sharing what our experiences were, and ultimately formed the National Collegiate Jump Rope Association. And now we're a nonprofit organization, but we have over 20 teams now across different colleges. And we have a summit every year. We have the National Collegiate Jump Rope Championships that we're hosting. And it's actually about students taking charge. And versus having, a coach or something, like a parent that we're kind of used to growing up. It's actually about us running the teams, running the programs, and making events happen. And it's been an amazing experience. So
that is so cool. I love it. One thing I'm noticing, Tori, is that if you're passionate about something, it's to the moon, right? We're not just going to kind of like try it.
Oh, no, we're all in. For sure.
Now, 2017 is just an immaculate year. I'm sure there were, downs in it, just like any person. But I mean, to be the Ohio State Outstanding Senior of the Year, And then to also set a couple world records. Talk about those records with, what is it? The jumps in 3 minutes, and then is
Yeah.
it the number of triple unders?
Yeah. Both are very different stories.
Yeah, well, tell them both. I love it.
Yeah. So more kind of a sentimental one, the 3-minute speed.
Yeah.
When I first started competing at the age of 7, getting dead last, the first event I really started training after was 3-minute speed. So my goal with that was that it's an objective event. So it didn't matter how old I was.
Yeah.
And that's a really nice thing about jump rope competitions actually, is that you have age division championships at nationals, at worlds, but then if you're winning those or you're the top so many scores in the competition, the finals is just the best against the best, regardless of age. And this is so cool because that title is either Grand Nationals or Grand World Champion.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you know that you're truly like the best for that year, or your performance was really the best. So this is really awesome about jump rope. And that was my goal, was to conquer 3-minute speed as a young girl. So that became my event that I was training, and I was building into national records and world records. But my goal since I started jumping rope was to get 1,000 in 3 minutes. It was just the ultimate, like, this is what I want. And at the time when I started, they had just started getting 800 in 3 minutes, which is, and part of it is, the jump rope technology of ropes and just understanding training. And so I was the first female to break the 900 barrier, and then into the 950 and that type of thing. So 2017, trained so hard for this event. And I remember taking the floor and just feeling like I've done everything I possibly could. Yeah. So, the only thing I can do is enjoy the moment and do the best that I can. And I don't know what happened, but during it was even amazing. I remember finishing, my mom was there with me on the floor as my coach, and she just runs over and like embraces me. I got 1,010 jumps. My brother was there at the competition. He like runs down from the stands, and like, it was just this kind of very culminating moment of, since I was a little girl, this was my goal. And to be able to achieve it almost felt in that moment so simple. I'm like, how did it take me this long? But yeah, that was for sure one of the most special moments, to be able to even share it with my mom. So
1,010 jumps in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I feel terrible for the person that had to do the counting that day. That's tough.
They're good. They're trained professionals.
So something I want to ask about there, and then I do want to talk about the triple unders, but
sure.
So, all right. So I think for a lot of people, they have this big goal, right, that they're constantly going for. And then you kind of said it, you said, man, I accomplished it. And it just seems so simple. And I think for a lot of folks, if the end goal is the only thing that we focus on, there's not as much satisfaction as you think you would have when you accomplish it. And all of a sudden, now it's like, well, what's next? So for you, did you have a moment of what's next? Did you feel like, I'm at peace with this? Talk a little bit about just the emotional side of accomplishing that goal and thoughts moving forward.
Yeah, that's tough. I feel I've never really had that feeling in jump rope like I'm done here.
Yeah. Because
there's always more to do. I mean, 3-minute speed, that was definitely a goal of mine. Yeah. But there were times throughout my journey to get that number that, you lost that focus a bit because you broke your leg, or you couldn't jump this year, or something happened and you were injured and you couldn't compete at nationals. And so you kind of are training each year, just trying to get better the best that you can. And it's not like every year up to that point, I was like 500, this is the year, because like, it was kind of, had to be a realistic goal that I could kind of bite off and chew and take. And so accomplishing the 500 definitely didn't mean that I felt done, but it definitely felt like just this moment of everything kind of coming together. And I don't know how to describe it, but I never feel done in jump rope. There's always more to do, because there's more people to reach. There's more things to achieve. There's more things that our sport needs to go towards. So maybe accomplishing the 500, the 1,000 in 3 minutes was like a really nice personal goal. Yeah. But how I work is that I'm like, all right, that was awesome. Great job, Tori, but let's move on. Like, what's the next thing that we're going to go to? So yeah, I don't know if that really answered your question, but that's kind of how I internalize everything.
You betcha. Yeah. That's a pretty typical characteristic of high performers, right? Is you say, man, that was really cool, but what's next? And I'm on to the next thing. And so I'm not surprised to hear you say that at all. Now on the triple unders, so once again, that's 3 revolutions in a jump, and you did over 400.
Yeah. My legs were a little tired. So it's sometimes hard for me to keep track of like when I did what, because of this crazy story. The first time I was like, there was the world record before mine was 330 by another jumper. And the first time I went to try to break that, it was in England at Worlds in 2012. And I, for whatever reason, thought the record was 320, not 330, which really made a big difference. And it was one of these competitions where it's about all around. So you have to be a little strategic in how you preserve yourself across events.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I know I can get this world record. So let's get 330. So I get it securely, like 10 more is secure. And so I do 330 and I stop. And everyone is just like, why did you? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, like, okay, we're good. And then my mom and I, like, we had 320, like everybody, we all thought it was 320. And then like the other people who knew, they're like, why would you just stop? So it's like, you have to be kidding me. So I tied the record. Really silly. But like, I was like, then had to go on to my other events. So it's like, okay, out of mind, on to the next thing mentally. Yeah. 2 years I had to wait to come back and try it again. So on the floor, I'm at 330 and I mess up, like I miss. And so once again, that was on 331. They subtract 1 with the mistake. I tied again. Like, oh, you gotta be freaking kidding me. So much time and effort. But I knew I could do it all of these times. Like I knew it was in me. It's just like wasn't lining up or something. Yeah. So 2 more years, we come back and let's see. That was, I think, when I first like solidly broke it. I was like, you know what? There's no playing around now. Like once and for all, I'm going to get this record because I should have had it 4 years ago. Like, so I got it then. Let's see, that would have been 14, 16-ish. 15, 16, I think. And then going into 17, there was another competition, a new world tournament. And I was like, now I want to break that 400. Yeah. And so that's when I was like the 412. And then this year, I can't talk about results yet because we don't have security, but it was like a virtual tournament. And my new goal is 500. And I can say that I was very close, but I'm not done yet. So,
wow.
Yeah. So very fun event for sure. I love how it's different from all the other jump rope events. It's just about, you know, as many as you can do, no time limit. You're just on the floor, like suffering with yourself. Yeah. And I love that challenge so much. I love the whole mental game of it and the whole physical game because triple unders are really hard. They're really excruciating. And I also love that CrossFitters know exactly what they are. And I think this is a really nice connection that our sport can have with kind of the public or other fitness communities because people know how difficult triple unders are. So when they're hearing like any number above 400, it kind of blows their minds. And this is really cool connection.
Yeah. So I got to ask, not that I'd be able to go out and do 400 of these, but is it more leg fatigue, mental fatigue, or like shoulder, wrist fatigue when you're talking about doing 400 of these consecutively?
A little bit of everything. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of all the above. It depends on the day, what's going first, but there's definitely a mix of your legs going, your arms going, your endurance going. And then for sure, it's always mental, especially because I've gotten to a national tournament and I got 20 and I messed up. Yeah. After I had been training hundreds all year, and that can like you just miss and then you're done. And that's what's so special about this event is it's kind of like you aren't sure who's going to take the award because in any speed event you mess up, but you can get back into it. Yeah. Like you still have the potential to be on the leaderboard, but triples, you're done. Like you're out, you're done. And that's it. And that's really special. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. So for you, your time at Ohio State is coming to an end, and you've got this choice. Hey, do I go the med school route, or I've got this unique, very different opportunity that presents itself? Do I pursue that? So talk a little bit about the decision-making process and what you ended up doing.
Oh yeah, this was really hard for sure. Um, I since I was young and in school, I had prepared to go to medical school. I was always in the sciences. Like this was in my mind that I was going to do this as my career. Throughout college, I did biology and I also did industrial design because I thought it would be really cool to be able to supplement my career in medicine with this extra way to be able to improve the medical world with device design and this kind of thing. So everything I was really doing in my scholastic career was to prepare me for this. And so I had mentioned that I was performing every weekend throughout college, and that ended up getting bigger and bigger. I started doing NBA halftimes, like doing these kind of bigger events. And it came to the point where I started having to turn down events because I'm like, well, I can't in the week. Like I have school, like I can't go for this month to do this because I gotta study. And I think I wanted to do them. Like I found myself like, oh man, that would be a really cool opportunity. Or, oh man, I won't ever get to do that again. And so at this moment, that's exactly what was kind of going through my mind was like, okay, I have a timeline, obviously, that I can like go to medical school. Like that's not going to be when I'm 60. But this other one is a bit more time pressing. I have to do this now or else I'm never going to do it. And that was really purely what the decision came down to. Because both, like I do love medicine. I love anatomy. I want to help people in that way. So I would say that I can say that I'm passionate about both paths. But for sure, that was kind of the ultimate deciding factor.
Yeah, I love it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Now, being in performing, we were kind of chatting a little bit earlier about it, but all of a sudden this pandemic thing happens, and that prevents our ability to go out and perform in front of crowds. And so during that time frame, you mentioned, well, I'm overseas, I'm not by my family, but I would send my parents videos of me jump roping to let them know that I still have high spirits. So talk about what happened there and what transcended from that.
Yeah. So once again, stuck in Germany, luckily had a nice apartment that was stable. I had this really strange little patio outside, which I was also really lucky to have because a lot of people didn't even have the capability to do that. And I had a suitcase, like one suitcase. So very limited clothes, but I had my jump rope and that was really it. And so, yeah, communicating with mom and dad, I just started kind of making these really fun videos. And then I did a contest on Instagram. I wanted to win a pair of shoes. And it was like the blinding lights one. So I did a jump rope version and that got kind of shared and picked up a bit. And so I was like, okay, people are kind of enjoying this. And also it's just a depressing time in general. So maybe this will make people laugh or smile or be like, what is this? What is she doing? Or even start something new in COVID, because that was really what was starting to happen was people were trying new things. And so it just kind of went from there. I started posting the videos, just having fun with them, sending them to mom and dad, getting inspired by, different people online and just kind of exploring something new because I never imagined being present on social media in any way. It was never a goal of mine. It just became really fun. So yeah, that kind of took off and, Instagram, TikTok have changed so much in the last year and a half, which is wild to think about what they were like in the beginning of 2020. But yeah, it's been a really fun experience because I started getting messages from people that were just so positive. Just like, I had a bad day. I saw this video and it made me feel better. Or I've decided now I ordered a jump rope and I have a small space in my apartment. I'm going to try it. And then I was like, well, I can't stop now. Like there's people that are enjoying this and maybe we'll learn. And it just kind of just kept going. I couldn't stop it after getting messages like that. So yeah.
That's so cool. So I have a couple pointed things I want to ask about. One is, once again, we're going to include links to some of these videos. You do these split jumps, and I can't do the splits, let alone get a jump rope underneath me while doing that. So talk about like, how do you even begin the learning of that and incorporating that into some activity? I mean, do you do it on
Split.
like a trampoline?
No, I would say like there are a lot of jump rope tricks to try, especially when you start doing multiples where the
Yeah.
rope is going 2, 3, 4 times. Those are really nice to start with the trampoline. The splits, how did I think start training that? I mean, you have to have decent splits. Like
Yeah.
that's one thing. Also, abductor, adductor strength has to be pretty on point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I just start kind of mini, like you go squat position and then just a little bit at a time, like,
Yeah.
and then doing more of a split, more of a split. I would say that is probably the best way to progress into it. And then the rope is kind of secondary, you know, like if you have this down that you can go into a split and then pop up, that's the hardest part. Once you
Yeah.
add the rope, it's just getting it under you.
Got
So
it.
yeah, those splits are pretty cool though, for sure.
Yeah. And
Took me a
then,
while to get.
yeah, and then just the ability to juggle the soccer ball while jumping rope as well. Like,
Yeah.
once again, I can't really fathom it. I'm probably not just skilled or coordinated enough. But I mean, I know you said you played soccer growing up a little bit. So I mean, naturally, let's pair these together. But I feel like that's a pretty difficult task.
Yeah, not the easiest for sure. And it's funny because so my brother, he was a professional soccer player. He played in the MLS and this kind of thing. So I grew up watching him juggle and he's quite a good juggler. So I am really nothing. Like I have no juggling skills compared to him. And I would see him kind of do moves like this where he's jumping. I was like, I want to put a rope under that. Like very obvious connection, like you just said.
Yeah.
And then he helped me. He's like, okay, maybe if you try it like this, you'll be fine. And of course, his advice is on point. And yeah, once you get each separately down, it's really not too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, a little bit of a mental head tongue twister kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, something that you've mentioned a few different times is just the support from your family, especially your mom, and just, how she's kind of grown in the jump roping community as you were progressing in your jump roping community. Talk about I don't know, maybe the motivation that comes behind having someone believe in you and what you're capable of doing and wanting to help you become the best version of what you could be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my mom is a very intense woman. Yeah, I mean, she will do everything that she can to help my brother and I and my father succeed, which is just an amazing support system. I couldn't, have lucked out better with having these great parents. But they also were really instilling in my brother and I that, however you're going to spend your time, do the absolute best that you can with it, no matter what you choose to do. Like, even if you're like, I played piano growing up, and at first I didn't really take full advantage of that until I started kind of understanding this attitude as I got older. Like, even if I have no plans to be a professional pianist, like I am spending this 30 minutes of time, like do the best that I can with it, get the most out of it that I can, even with something as minor as this moment. And so this was, I think, one of the most important things that they possibly could have taught us, because it goes into everything I do beyond jump rope. It goes into how I treat my career, how I treat my Instagram page, like how I pursue school, how anything like this. It's just whatever you're going to spend your time at, like do the best that you can with it. And so I think I'm really grateful for these amazing lessons. And so my mom, very intense woman, always there to be kind of that firsthand support. My dad is always working so hard to make things happen for us, or us to be able to do things. But he's also one of the kindest and like just brightest men I ever know. So he's also been this amazing mentor. And then my brother is just the hardest worker in the world. And so I feel like whenever I'm doing something, I'm trying to take kind of these amazing pieces that each of them has shared. And I think I always fall short, but I do try really hard to kind of live up to these three amazing people.
Absolutely. Well, my guess is that they're all very proud of you and all that you've been able to accomplish thus far. And so, Tori, I want to say thanks so much for being on today and sharing your story of just how you went from being 5 and seeing a jump rope to where you're at today. I mean, holding multiple records and winning multiple titles. And so I can't wait. You and I will have to stay in contact, but do this again in like 3 or 5 years.
Cool.
When the new record's like 1100 and 600, and talk about how we accomplished that.
Very cool. I would love to.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Tori.
Thanks, Phil.